Hello, folks, and welcome to Got Your Back, this Sunday short shift edition. Oh, was that a tough loss for the Oilers? Definitely their worst performance of the season. And Jack Campbell struggled in net and then had some pretty harsh words for his own play after the game was over. We're going to dig into all that today on the podcast, as we'll be joined by Terry Ryan. In the meantime, we'll remind you that Got Your Back Short Shifts here is brought to you by Mid-City Construction Management. Recently spent some time on some of their job sites. Had no idea the scope of work that this crew is doing in and around the Edmonton area. Holy smokes. Some of the biggest projects going around town. They are right smack dab in the middle of it. And it's kind of cool, right? Because it's a locally owned family company that specializes in those civil construction projects. And they've done so for over 40 years. Roadways, excavation, underground utilities, paving, and concrete. They've played a massive role in the infrastructure of Edmonton and surrounding area since 1980. And if you listen to our last couple of short shifts, you'll know they gave away some tickets. Hockeypedia was the winner of a pair of club tickets to the game against the Dallas Stars on Saturday afternoon. Don't know if they're Oiler fans or not, but fantastic seats, though the game did not go great for the Edmonton Oilers. But a big thanks again to Mid-City Construction Management for being part of Got Your Back Short Shifts and doing that fantastic giveaway with us as we check in out on the East Coast with our good buddy Terry Ryan, who's gazing off into the distance. TR, penny for your thoughts there, buddy. Where was your brain at that moment? You look like you're a million miles away.
Wow, I had a lot going through my head. You're a very attentive person. I was actually thinking about a bunch of stuff, most of which I can't say on here.
Okay, very good. Very good. We'll leave it there. We don't have to exactly be G-rated on the pod, but we definitely can't be XXX or whatever the heck was just going through your brain. So we'll...
Well, yeah, exactly. I can tell you some of it. I was reminiscing about the Oilers game to a degree. I watched it here with them last night. We'll leave it at that. But anyway... how you doing, Ryan? It's good to be with you on a Sunday.
Yeah, man. I love doing these because, the Oilers are in action tomorrow. They head out on a road trip here, probably a much-needed road trip. But there's a lot to talk about from that game yesterday. So we sneak in a quick weekend short shift here and go over some of the big topics. I think probably Jack Campbell is the place to start. We'll talk about his post-game comments in a moment. But first, let's get to his game. There were a couple that he was for sure going to want back. And TR, I know you've been watching all the Oiler games here, but man, there just seems to be a goal, maybe two a game that are just kind of right on that line, if not flat out weak ones. It's been consistent for him this year.
Yeah, he doesn't look like the answer. He doesn't look like what they wanted when they signed him, but I really don't think it's cause for panic. A few mistakes, and Campbell gets in his own head. He's got a history of doing this, which... I like the fact that he's humble. I really do. But, I think he said he was pathetic. He's not pathetic. It was a rough start. A couple of those were really bad bounces. I don't know what you do about him. And he did let in a couple of bad ones. It's easy to stay down, but he's Jack Campbell. He was an all-star last year. Look, the nature of even a great goalie, it's streaky. You don't just consistently play all year. Vasilevsky maybe is the closest I can think of it. Let's think 27 years ago. When I was Patrick Roy, he started the year horribly. Got lit up for 9. Montreal were booing him after he won him 2 cups. And then he wins with Colorado at the end of that year. I don't think Jack Campbell has lost it or there's cause for alarm. He played, I won't say pathetic. He didn't play very good, man. But I know he has it in him. And he's the kind of guy that this bothers him clearly. And he's going to strive to get better and maximize his potential. I don't really worry about it long term.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we're going to make a technical edit right on the fly here because I'm doing all the tech end on my own. I think you might be over-modulating your mic a touch. Do you want to back it off? Hit that switch you hit before. Yeah, either back it off, talk with it about there because we love those dulcet tones, TR. We can't have you all over-modulated.
Does this sound about – okay, yeah. Is this different than this? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Wasn't a lot of change there. Yeah, that's actually not bad. Leave it like that.
Leave it like this?
That. I'll boost you if I can a little bit on this end.
Okay.
We got you, buddy. No worries. Nothing but budget here on Short
It's
Shifts.
completely
Folks.
different sound for my podcast. Whatever I do, I put it at this level.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. All I use this computer for are podcasts and yours and mine.
Yeah.
So maybe when I'm on mine, and I'm just using the screen, I just put it at 8.
Yeah.
And it works.
Who knows? It's all good, buddy. We can hear you good enough. I'm going to get to the Weiss Johnson soundbox here because you just talked about Jack Campbell assessing his own game. And listen, I asked him the question. And this is always tough. You go in after a game and a guy clearly hasn't played very well. You're like, what's the right way to ask the question? We just asked him, what do you think of the way your night went? And here's what Jack Campbell laid out there for everybody.
Kind of like it's gone all year for me personally. I just haven't brought my best, and frankly, it's just been pathetic the way I've been playing. So, I owe it to this team to bring my A game, and they haven't seen it yet. So I'm going to just keep working hard, and I'm going to get through this and be there for the guys, but they've been playing great.
So we're going to talk to Mark Masters in a few minutes here because Mark spent Jack Campbell's whole tenure in Toronto covering Jack Campbell, and we're going to dig a little bit more into this history he has of being really, really hard on himself. But there's this line, I think, TR, where if you're a teammate of Jack Campbell's and you hear a guy stand in there and take accountability for the mistakes that he's made, you probably appreciate that to a degree. But then there's this line where you hear a guy almost beating up on himself and you wonder, like, oh man, got to go prop this guy up because we need that guy. If I were a teammate of Jack Campbell's and I heard him talking about his own game that way, I would feel like you feel like he's on it, but I want to go give that guy a tap in the pads and help prop him up a little bit. He's probably left teammates feeling like they need to do that.
Agreed on everything you said. He's definitely being hard on himself. As a teammate, I would be there. The way I would handle it, I would take him to breakfast or a bite to eat or something, and not address it fully like it's 5 alarm, because that also, overplaying it. There's something to be said for that too. But maybe do that again. I'd rather someone be on the humble side of things than the cocky side. So
I agree.
I appreciate where he's coming from, and if I'm on his team, I may be a little bit frustrated at the game yesterday, but everybody makes mistakes. It's just more obvious when it's the goalie. Similar to baseball, when it's a pitcher, everything kind of seems like it's on you, but it's not. And someone that takes that humble approach, usually they're the kind of people that work real hard to redeem themselves. So, and again, he's got a track record. He's always been a good goalie. Yes, I guess someone could say streaky, but find me a goalie that's not. I think he's played the last couple of years in the Toronto market and Edmonton, with some of the most recognized players in some of the most popular markets. I just think it's a lot of it is victim of circumstance. I don't want to say victim either, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm getting at.
It's a pressure.
All eyes are on Jack Campbell all the time.
Yeah.
But in the end, I think he is a good goalie, and I think he's going to play well.
Yeah, it's a pressure cooker. No goalie has spent more time in the pressure cooker than Jack Campbell over the last number of seasons. And you think about the Toronto market and the focus that there is there, and rightfully so. And then
not to mention, sorry to cut you off, Ryan, he's got Stuart Skinner there. I don't know if they had this option in Toronto. It was back and forth between minor leaguers, and Mrazek was always hurt. And, Skinner's there. Pushed. And it's a game. You got to be a big boy here, right? Survival of the fittest. Yeah. If he doesn't play well, okay. We got Stuart Skinner, who seems to be, rising up to the occasion. So that, sorry to cut you off there, but they've got 2 good goalies here.
Yeah, no, you're right. And Skinner is pushing here in the early going. So Campbell does have a history of being really hard on himself. We're going to go back to the Weiss Johnson soundbox here. And a reminder, as part of their 45th anniversary, for the next 3 months, Weiss Johnson is going to be giving away, including installation, a new furnace or hot water tank to a community organization or a charity that is in need. And they're also looking for the oldest furnace in Edmonton. So if you've got just a giant old clunker sitting in your basement, take a picture and send it to them. They want to see if they can find and replace the oldest furnace in the city. Send an email to info@weiss-johnson.com. That's info@weiss-johnson.com. If you know a community organization or a charity that is in need of a new hot water tank or furnace, or if you think you just might have the oldest one in town, Weiss Johnson wants to get some work done. Okay, back to the Weiss Johnson soundbox. Here's Jack Campbell after the 2021 Game 7 loss. Tough goal that ended that series between the Montreal Canadiens and the Toronto Maple Leafs.
You got to work your way to get.
Sorry, that was Jay Woodcroft. Here is Campbell.
It's just tough. Like, I just think of how hard our team battled, and for it to end on a goal, worst goal of my career, and happen in Game 7, it's not acceptable. And, I think the team counts on me to be better, and I know I can be a lot better than that.
So that was a different situation, a lot more pressure packed, obviously, the way the season ends. But another example of just the extent to which he just really digs in on himself in moments. And, for a goaltender to have success, there's probably some confidence that's required. And Jack Campbell needs to figure out a way to get that confidence going again here in the early going, TR.
I don't think it'll be a problem given the team that's around him. The Oilers, it was the worst game paper, it was, but a lot of them were still doing, I think for the most part, there was a lot of positives. 6 goals went in again, but 2 were terrible bounces. Let's put at least 1 awful goal on Campbell. I think it was just closer than it seemed. And I think if there's one thing about the Oilers that I think I can say is that they seem to have a positive dressing room as opposed to other years in recent history. I don't know. I have no reason to say that other than what I'm reading from what they say, from what I hear, the scuttlebutt on the street, the vibe in Edmonton.
Yeah.
McDavid, we talked about his leadership the other day. That's come a long way. So there's some bumps in every road. I don't know. It's just magnified. I think if you look back a year ago, Tampa Bay were going through the same thing, and they were in the middle of winning Stanley Cup championships. Again, positive attitudes.
Yeah.
There are teams, I won't mention them, there are some that you can tell. And here's a guy I'll tell you what says it to me the most subconsciously, now that I think about it and talk about it, is Evander Kane went there and everybody thought he was a problem child, which he probably was. We had reason to think so because I was one of them. I say we. Wasn't sure how that would pan out. But again and again, these people seem to go there and find their best selves. That says a lot to me about who's in the room. Magnifying glass on McDavid and Draisaitl, obviously, but guys like Nurse who have been there for a while who don't seem to take crap from anybody on or off the ice. Guys like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, he didn't just go where he did in the draft. I remember because he was a great player. Everybody always said how good of a teammate he was, a positive influence in the dressing room. You're seeing all this. I think that often goes underrated, and it's something that you don't see with X's and O's. You don't see it in the analytics. You don't look at the chalkboard and necessarily see those things come out. But I think if there's teammates in the league that are going to be surrounded by, I think Edmonton would be one of my top picks.
They got a pretty strong core group, guys that have, they won their individual awards, and they're all pretty singularly focused on the end goal. They know they're going to need Jack Campbell. No question they'll rally around him. Want to be clear about yesterday's effort, though. I thought it was their worst one of the year. I did think it was the worst one of the year. I don't think there's any lipstick you can put on that pig for sure. I think it was tough, man. Their passing was atrocious. They were having trouble making 5-footers. Their puck support, their effort level, their battle level. Like TR, man, I thought it was as bad as they'd played this year.
What? Okay. Yeah. Did you notice? I got a note. Pucks bouncing off sticks. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
Pucks that are like just A to B, like passes that not sauce, just on the stick in crucial areas. One came out of the corner to the point, and it just hits the stick and bounces over. I don't know what to attribute that to. I don't know the sticks they're using. They
weren't sharp. No, man. They weren't. I'm telling you, they weren't sharp. They weren't making 7-8 foot passes that you're still making to this day with ease. Like to me, TR, they were not sharp. And when you have a night where you're not feeling it and the passes aren't quite clicking and it's not quite going, well, what can you do? Well, get to work, right? Finish some checks, get to work, dig in, make sure you're not getting out-battled, because I think they were fighting the puck a little bit, and they didn't put the requisite work in to get through the puck battles they were having.
And it's like some guys were at different times. It wasn't a well-oiled machine. There was times that people went out there and had some great shifts, some spunk. But as a group, they were very sporadic. They were all over the place. Defensively, the Oilers are always going to get chances. There were still, all kinds of chances out there. It's just defensively sometimes. And even though I did say a couple were bad bounces, and they were, but you still got to know where the person is on the ice, though.
There was some
you can have the stick. The one in front of the net, I forget, but I think it might have been Ben's goal where Robertson kind of came around the goalie and nearly jammed it in himself. Well, you got to. I mean, I know there was someone there. It was a D-man. You got to have the stick, though. I mean, it's Jamie Benn. You got to have his stick. That's the whole part of that. It's one thing to stand next to the guy, but these are Adam mistakes. Again, they're all easily fixable. Just like, to me, I'm a coach looking at it. I don't have to dissect this too much, man. This is minor hockey 101. You put your stick on the ice. You don't even have to hold it, but there's give a free goal. It's Jamie Benn in front of the net, which brings me to this. Honestly, I know it's a different game, but me, any coach I had, any teammate knows that that's when to do it. Ben is out there. I'm not saying he wasn't even playing really dirty. But he really threw his weight around. He was playing with a swagger. He had 3 goals.
He tried to embarrass Hyman there. He tried to
embarrass
Hyman.
Yes, he did, and that's when I go out, I'm telling you, just me as a player, and that's what I don't understand. A lot of young guys throughout the league or guys fighting for even just teammates, just go out there and do something. I would go out and grab him. I really would. I love Jamie Benn as a player because of this. But if I was on the bench, just, there's 8 minutes left, it's 6-2, you could hear a pin drop. People paid good money. That would be on my mind too. Let's go. We got to have these people come back and watch us. We're going to lose for sure. That's when they go out and finish every hit, fall into the goalie strategically. Maybe Ben was looking for it. One little tap on the pants, he was turning around ready to go. And I wouldn't care if I took a real clobbering. Just something. Again, that's the different game. No one even brings that up anymore. I'm not saying it should have happened, but if there's a time for it, that was it.
That would have been it. Well, and we don't always know everything that goes on out there. Like, I mean, whether Evander Kane at some point asked him to go or not, I'm not sure. Like sometimes there's little moments where we don't necessarily pick it up watching the game broadcast or sitting up at the top. It is a much different game. But I will say, I mean, Jamie Benn, was trying to embarrass Zach Hyman in that situation. Hyman's not a guy that has much experience or want to be dropped the gloves in fighting, nor should he. He's having a really good season this year, but it got a little bit started to be painted outside the lines a little there with Jamie Benn, but that's a guy that can play that way because he can back that up. And we have seen little to none of that from the Oilers this year. I mean, they're just it's a different game. I think they 7 or 8 fighting majors last year. Haven't had any other than Puljujärvi's, which wasn't a real fight this year. It's not really part of the makeup and part of the strategy anymore. It's a different game now for sure. But you're right, in a 6-2 game, a 4-goal spread like that. What would you do with the next start? So you've got Washington tomorrow, and then you've got the Tampa Bay Lightning the very next day. Given what we heard from Jack Campbell, would you just go right back to him, or can you not risk it? You need to give him a few days to get sorted, and you got to give Stu Skinner the next game.
That's such a coin flip that I hate to really sit on the fence with this, but I'd probably just read the room. If I was inside the room, I would have to read the room. I'd talk to both goalies, I'd talk it out. Right now, knowing what I know, just fantasy pool, I'd put Campbell back in there. Here you go. We got lots of confidence in you. It was just an off game. You're our number one, man. This is the way it goes. And then, if it keeps deteriorating, because again, it's not always wins and losses. He needs to have a great game. He needs to go out there and play a great game.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. I could totally see the argument for the other way around. And like I said, if it's a situation where I would really communication within that room probably would go a long way. X's and O's, I say put him back in.
Yeah. We're going to go back to the Weiss Johnson soundbox one more time here. Here's Jay Woodcroft talking about Jack Campbell, who, we said to Jay Woodcroft he was really hard on himself after the game. So Woodcroft was aware of his comments to a degree, but here's what he said post-game.
You got to work your way to get to the point where you want to be, and I'm confident Jack is going to put the work in. He's a great teammate, and we have confidence in him, and he'll continue to work through it.
I would probably go to Stuart Skinner. I would give Jack Campbell a day or so to gather himself, get himself sorted out. Now, Washington, they're 5-6 so far this year. We all know the caliber of shooters they have. Tampa Bay is 7-4. So the issue is if you don't start him against Washington, maybe you're giving him the tougher start against Tampa. But he's got to play one of the next two. I think Stuart Skinner, first of all, they don't want to end up on a losing streak here, too many games. I'd start Stuart Skinner and give Campbell the opportunity to bounce back against a pretty good Tampa Bay team. So we'll see what they do. TR, good to get out on the road. Like, there's always this saying there, team's been at home a lot. The Oilers played a pile of games in the early going. There is something to that, though, isn't there, getting out on the road?
I tell you this, playing the actual games on the road, like, it can be tough, right? Because, I don't want to say intimidating, but along those lines. I mean, it's similar. It's all relative. You played Major Junior, you know how it goes. It's not easy to go into Prince Albert when it's packed and play a good game, but there's definitely more of a feeling of unification because of that. I love that. I enjoyed that as a teammate. Often my most frustrating times. I can identify with Campbell. I was that kind of player as well. Really, if you go into the bones of it, it's probably why I got in a lot of fights towards the end of the game, because I felt if I wasn't doing something, I'd lay my butt. Here's how I'm, like, subconsciously here, but, here, guys, here's how loyal I am. I'll take physical punishment for you guys. You know what I mean? Like, and you can kind of do that as a player. It'd be a little bit tougher if you were, a goalie. But anyway, I do identify with that. And I remember most of those things happening at home, because I always felt like, personally now, there's more of a microscope on me as a player, as a person. When we go on the road, it's the team. Like, we're into this together. It ain't going to be easy, guys. We're probably going to go out and eat together from breakfast, lunch, pregame, after. Back in the day, maybe have a beer or two, chat about the game. What do I have to do better? Now, a lot of that is videos. Back then, it was just starting, but you know how it goes, man. After a game and you play well or you play like crap, going on the road to actually become a unit says a lot, and I loved that. Right now would be perfect for me as a player on the Oilers. What timing for a road trip, and I'd look forward to it.
Yeah, and they're on the road for over a week here, so we'll see if that helps them get themselves tracked. They played a decent game against Jersey, spit the bit in a 7-second window. Little surprising they came out and were as bad as they were after spitting the bit the way they did against Jersey. Surprising that this group came out and didn't put forth a better effort against Dallas coming off of that big disappointment. Good teams stop the slide right here. Good teams grab this thing by the throat and put an end to it, and don't let it get to 3, TR.
100%. These are great. If there's any advantage, I'll always say I think the NHL season's too long. But if there's any advantage to it, is that these are, you become battle tested, but people talk about playoffs. Edmonton took a step last year, but these little battles within the war, for the whole season, and this much adversity early, I think it's healthy adversity, and like I said, they seem to have a group, to me, more often than not lately seem to rise to the occasion, going right back to last year and last year's playoffs. And the group as a unit, I think, is becoming, I put it earlier, like the wheel, a cog in the wheel. It seems like everybody's starting to come together. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I think it's more of a case of that. Now, we'll see over the next 2 games, right? We really will, because now a lot of guys, it's not just Campbell. If I'm anybody in that room, really, I want to come out and have a better game. So I'm thinking you're going to see the Oilers come out with, if nothing else, a big effort. If nothing else, you can't make that puck go in, but I think they're going to come out and they're going to outplay Washington. I really do.
All right, great stuff, TR. Appreciate your time, man. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. What's on tap for you?
I'm skating at 2:00 with my buddy Jeremy Charles, one of Canada's and the world's most renowned chefs.
Yeah.
One a good friend of mine. We're going to go, and a bunch of us that have grown up together. We're going to do that, and my daughter right there, right behind me, she has soccer, so it's a sports Sunday, as it usually is.
Right on, buddy. Have a great day. Appreciate this.
You too, Shogger. Have a great Sunday. It's a great time to be alive, buddy.
No, absolutely it is. We're not done, though. I had a chance to catch up with Mark Masters just a short time ago. He spent, Jack Campbell's whole career in Toronto. Mark Masters was there covering him. We had a good chance to talk a little bit about what we heard from Campbell the other night and Mark's impressions of how Campbell maybe will be able to rebound from this. So here is Mark Masters. See you, TR. All right, time to check in with my good friend, my reporting compatriot, Mark Masters, who does such a great job covering the Toronto Maple Leafs for us. Mark, you're always in an airport somewhere. Tough back-to-back for the Leafs. Where are you? Where are you heading?
Yeah, I'm at Pearson International and en route to Raleigh. Durham for a matinee against, or I guess a 5 p.m. start against the Hurricanes. So talk about a tough back-to-back. You got the 10-win Atlantic division-leading Bruins on one night, and then they're in Raleigh, against a rested Hurricanes team that's off to a great start. So tough travel for me and a tough challenge for the Leafs.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, listen, we'll have you back sometime to talk specifically about the Leafs, but I wanted to talk to you more specifically about Jack Campbell because you covered his time in Toronto. We heard him after the loss yesterday, really hard on himself. Used the word pathetic to describe his play so far this year. He has a history of being tough on himself in this way, Mark. In your time covering him, what was your experience with this, and what did you think when you heard him say what he did yesterday?
Well, I wasn't surprised. I kind of had flashbacks to some of the scrums and media sessions Jack Campbell held in Toronto because when things were not going well and he was not playing well, he was incredibly hard on himself. I remember he was excellent in a game that they lost 2-1, and he got no run support, and he just took the complete blame for the entire loss. He's like, I got to be better on that one goal or something. And you're like, the media sessions almost turned into therapy sessions. It felt like, with the reporters framing questions in a more positive way. Well, you've had a good run here. Yeah. It was crazy ranges because, it was either pure giddiness usually after a win, or he was really down after losses, and he worked so hard on it. And he never really carried the load as a starter before arriving in Toronto. And then he kind of took over the job when Frederik Andersen was out with the injury. So that was a big thing for him to deal with, because previously in his career, when he was starting infrequently, he had more time to process the emotions and each game as they came. So that was a big challenge for him. And I know it was a concern in Toronto, how could he handle it? And ultimately, I think he was fine in the playoffs. Yeah. And holding his own against Carey Price and Andrei Vasilevsky, he is able to get things back on the rails when they might seem to be veering off. But I can certainly understand early with a new team, he puts a lot of pressure on himself to perform at the best of times, but no doubt he wants to endear himself to a new locker room and a new fan base. So I can understand. I wasn't surprised, let's just say, when I saw that quote from Campbell come out.
I watched that behind the scenes program that the Leafs put together, and Campbell was a big part of a lot of the episodes. And one of the things that I think it gave people outside the market a sense for, Mark, that you have being around that team all the time, is just the extent to which he was beloved by his teammates, how unique his character is and how much his teammates seem to care about him. And I think this quality where he wants to take it all on himself and step in front of it for his team, or own his share and more of the responsibility, I think it makes him as beloved as he is with his teammates, but also probably hard for them to watch him be so darn hard on himself.
Right. We saw teammates in Toronto constantly praising him, trying to build him up, especially when things were going south, talking about how they could do a better job. I mean, it's trying for them too, right? Because everyone's focused on their own game. The last thing you want to really be focusing on as a skater is, your goaltender's mindset. You want to hope that they're just like a rock back there. And that's, and Campbell was for such a long chunk of his career. I guess he was a bit streaky though. But when he was on a positive streak, you never had to worry about him. He was just doing his thing back there, feeling good. And then when things were going the wrong way, it felt like everyone in the organization really had to be careful not to say anything that could come off as remotely critical. So it's a fine line, right? I mean, he is a beloved. He is just one of those guys that I remember we were in LA and I asked Drew Doughty, I'm like, what makes this guy such a great teammate? Or you hear all these, great things. And he's like, I invited him to a party at my house in the summer and he actually got me a gift for inviting him. Wow. He's just that guy, right? It just seems like this, it's almost too good to be true, his personality, but that's just who he is. So, he's an easy guy to root for, and hopefully, I think that's why, teammates want him to do well and maybe give him a little slack when it comes to some of these swings.
It'll be interesting to see how Jay Woodcroft handles this situation if you get him right back on the horse, and they got a back-to-back coming up here, so maybe you start Campbell in the first one and then go to Skinner, or give Campbell a day or two to kind of get himself back on track and start Skinner in the first one. But early days here he's clearly being outplayed by the guy that was the clear backup. They're good buddies. It's a healthy competition, but the pressure is ratcheting up a little bit here on Jack Campbell. It's going to be interesting to see how he handles it. and how his teammates and his head coach handle the situation as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you quick, Mark, about the Leafs goaltending situation. Holy snap. I think when they signed the guys they signed, and in particular their starter, people went, what if he can't stay healthy? Worst case scenario just came crashing in, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not good. Eric Källgren now, the only healthy of their top four of the depth chart in terms of goaltending. Eric Källgren is the only guy standing right now. Samsonov going down with a knee injury. Matt Murray's still a ways away, coming off the adductor injury. And Joseph Wall had off-season shoulder surgery and isn't back. So, it's, Sheldon Keefe was very blunt. Any team loses 3 goalies at the same time.
Yeah.
You're not going to be too comfortable. Källgren, I think it's his 16th start in the NHL tonight in Raleigh. He was actually quite good for the Leafs. At least, he won the game. A lot of the games he started last year when Peter Mrazek and Campbell were injured. Both of them were out at different times down the stretch, and he was 8-4-1. So they feel like he can win them games, but they better play like they did against Boston and not like they were playing previously in the season. They got to protect this guy because they're still in a pretty precarious spot in the standings, at least early on. But yeah, it's not great. The other thing is they don't really have a backup right now because the only other goalie they have under an NHL contract that I haven't already mentioned is Dennis Hildeby, who they just drafted in the 4th round in the last draft, and he's up playing on loan in the Swedish Hockey League. Yeah. So I'm not even sure, to be honest, as we're standing here hours from puck drop, who's going to dress as the backup tonight. But I'm sure they'll figure it out. Actually, with Nicholas Ove-Kubel getting claimed off waivers by Washington Saturday morning, they're actually now finally below the 50 contract maximum. They're at 49, so they could sign someone now. We'll see what they do, but boy, it's a tough spot for their goaltending right now.
Yeah. How is the team playing right now in terms of being able to withstand this from a defensive play standpoint?
Oh, it's such a predictable team. They're terrible against bad teams sometimes, which was the case early on. And then they played their best game of the season against the league's best team, the Boston Bruins last night, like just a different team than we've seen. And, Keefe, to his credit, he had said, it's a different game, right? Like they hadn't played like a team that good and a game that fast. So they reached that level. I'm not sure what we're going to see on a back-to-back against a very good Hurricanes team that didn't play last night either. Yep. So they're rested. And then they got the Vegas Golden Knights, the best team in the Western Conference, coming in on Tuesday. So usually these games bring out the best in them. If they play the way they did on Saturday night, they're going to be fine moving forward here. The question everyone has in the market is why they can't do it consistently and be at the top of the league like Boston, which is what everyone was expecting and thought that we would see coming out of the gate. That's what they were saying. They wanted to win them, compete for the President's Trophy, win the division, set themselves up for playoff success, and then to fall flat kind of in the first month got the alarm bells ringing. But certainly the performance Saturday against Boston allayed some concerns, put out the fire at least for the next few hours.
Yeah, exactly. And Petrozelli, right? Was on an AHL deal, and they signed him. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. It'll be interesting times in Leafs land. Mark, I know you got to hop on a flight, so thank you, my friend. We'll let you go. Enjoy a Starbucks on the podcast for the rest of your trip, okay, buddy?
I'm in line right now.
A little something coming your way. Well, I might not be able to get it to you in time to pay for the one you're about to buy, but the next 3 or 4 are on me, okay, pal?
All right. I'll hold you to that. Thank you, Ryan.
Okay, you can hang up, board your flight, grab your coffee. I'm going to wrap the pod. Cheers, Mark.
Cheers.
All right, that is the one and only Mark Masters. Big thanks to him for taking some time before he hops on a flight. Always busy, always on the road. One of the busiest reporters we have at TSN. That's going to wrap the podcast, folks. This short shift edition. Big thanks for your downloads and your subscriptions. And hey, listen, give us a review. Throw us a review on iTunes. Good, bad, indifferent, whatever. We love hearing from you. Let us know how you feel about the podcast. Big thanks to our sponsors, Mid-City Construction Management, and of course our good friends at Weiss Johnson. Oilers in action again on Monday. For now, enjoy your Sunday, and we look forward to talking to you real soon this week, folks. Cheers.